What's up, Blue Chips? 3 total trades today, 2 on SM, 1 on XELA. Let's get to it. All right, traders, so starting here on XELA, this is a penny stock. Take a look at that. Something new here on the channel, something we thought we'd never be trading, but I've been paying attention to these the last couple weeks, and believe it or not, these react and trade almost identical to the stocks that I've been trading on a daily basis. The float on this one happened to be, I think it was like 73 million. And I mean, look at the chart. It looks no different than any other chart that you would normally see. You get a nice intense move, you get the pullbacks, all the good stuff, right? So we ended up taking a trade on this. We ended up having to manually trade it because I didn't have a button, obviously, for 10 cents. So I did what I thought it would be, which is basically right now for 20 cents, it's 100 shares. So I just took 200 shares here and we ended up getting a fill at 56 cents. This started dropping down. If I wanted the full 1-to-1 there, I would have had to just wait for 46 cents, which as you can see, it would have eventually got there. But we decided to try something different since we had the 200 shares. And sorry for the dog walking. I know you guys love that. So we tried to scale out of this and it ended up working out pretty nicely here. We took 100, which was half of our shares here at the $0.50, thinking that that might try to act as a pretty good support. And as you can see, we were right in the moment. It did jump back up there to 53. It tried to come back down and ended up going back up and testing that area again. We actually had our stop right above here using this as a pivot point, and it hit it, used it as resistance again. And we ended up coming down and covering right here at that previous resistance in VWAP. And as you can see, it did try to grind a little bit lower, but ultimately ended up coming back up. So pretty good cover there, pretty good scale out. In the future though, we probably would be taking 75% of our shares here, not just 50. But I was kind of in the moment, just trying to figure everything out since I was doing it all manually. But it worked out pretty well. So on to our second and third trade here on SM. This actually looks like a pretty similar chart. You see grind, grind, grind. We had the previous high and resistance from yesterday. So that's kind of what we were using as our previous resistance. It popped through there. Also, it was right up at the $4 area. Thought that was going to be used as some good resistance. So we jumped in right beforehand. As you can see, this was also on SSR. So we had to get in on the ask. We saw it top there. It didn't really get to 4. It got to like 398. We tried to hit it there. We ended up getting 397, and we actually didn't get filled right away, but then it popped back up, filled us, and kind of hovered there for a second, then went right up to 4. And as you can see, it went right through 4, and it actually squeezed all the way up there to our stop, sitting there at 417. So we're a little bit early here on that initial entry. We loved this chart, right? Look at this, just nothing but extension, and the candles just kept getting bigger and bigger, wider and wider, whatever you want to call them. So we knew we wanted to get back into this trade. So we just kind of waited for a second, kind of felt it out. It ended up hitting a high of 420.25. And as it was coming back down, we hit the ask real quick at 418. Obviously, we didn't get filled right away. It did jump back up, fill us real quick, and it actually went back up to 423, which is how we got our fill. And then as you can see, this thing absolutely just dumped. And we tried the same thing. We had if we wanted the full 1-to-1 order there, which would have just gave us a break even overall on the ticker, we could have let it go, and our order would have been sitting there at 398, and we would have got our full 1-to-1 there. But I wanted to try scaling out again. So we had 100 shares here, as you can see, stopped out 100 there, got back in for the same 100, and we took 75 here, looking to try to ride 25 out. And we were looking for this move. And I'm not going to lie, this technically wasn't a pivot point when it did bounce back up here to 4 and it came back down. But I had a lot going on in the house at the moment, and I was really just looking for a reason to get out of the trade and to try to figure out what was going on with the kids and all that good stuff. So as you can see, it did pop up over here 4. This was the real pivot point, that sloppy seconds that I knew was pretty much incoming. We did pop through 4, got all the way up there to 409, and then ultimately it did end up coming all the way down here to 350. So a little disappointing that I found a way to get out of this trade, but we did. Still ended up being a pretty decent trade, and we ended up about 0.7-ish R on the day total. As you can see here, there's the XELA trade, and then we pretty much broke even here on the SM trade. So not going to complain. We ended up doing pretty well overall. We ended up on the month of April with a 57.5% win percentage. So 1-to-1, that means we are profitable. It's a little bit off just because if you remember at the beginning of the month, the first 25 trades, we were only risking 10 to make 10. But as you can see here, we are actually now risking 20 to make 20. So on Monday, when we lost all 6 of the trades that we had taken, it kind of threw us off. And I was doing the math a little bit earlier, and let me scroll up here because I have it. But if every single one of our trades were risking the same, $20 to make $20, we actually would be up $140 with the same win percentage. So if you take off with the new rule I made after Monday, where I can only lose 3 times on the same ticker, if you take that into account, we actually would have been at 200, and we also would have been at a 61.3% win percentage. So just some things to keep in mind. That's why it's pretty nice to keep a journal, because it really kind of lets you go back and analyze mistakes. It also lets you see the numbers if you were to change something that isn't so drastic, or something that could be so drastic. You know, it allows you to go back and kind of finagle with your numbers to see where you could be in certain situations. So right now, a lot of people just look at this number here, but in reality, this number, if we were using the same risk the whole month, we would be sitting at 140 and not 50. So almost 3x the money that is being shown. And then if we had that rule in place already, and Monday was only three losses instead of 6, we would be even higher with a higher win percentage. So you always have to, I mean, obviously that's not where we are, right? It's all hindsight type stuff. But when you start to move forward, this is how you progress. You take these into account and you learn from them and you move forward. So that's exactly what we're doing. That's all I have for you guys. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. Always appreciate the support. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave those down below. As always, the trades will be right up here in the card. Feel free to click that. They're already time-stamped. And I will see you guys tomorrow morning. Peace.
Yeah.